Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksuramilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padanam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhanvitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrisabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gauratu Se Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayet Nastaprayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Hare Krishna, everybody. All dear boys and girls, I welcome you for this Shrimad Bhagwatam class. We will begin from where we left off yesterday. Before that, I will give you the brief summary of what we have discussed yesterday. It was half the chapter of chapter number 5, the title of which is Vyasdev Narad's instructions on Shrimad Bhagwatam for Vyasdev. So we have covered 22 verses yesterday, and rest of them we will cover it today. So that way we will finish chapter 5 today. So what we covered yesterday, I will briefly describe. In the beginning of chapter 5, Narad inquires about Vyasadeva's dissatisfaction. As we know from end of chapter 4 that after writing so many scriptures, he was still not happy. So now Narad is inquire about his dissatisfaction here. But while inquiring, he was smiling slightly. Why he was slightly smiling? Because he knew the reason for Vyasadeva's dissatisfaction. That's why he slightly smiled about it. So now, what was the response of Vyasadeva when Narad Muni asked questions to him? It is not that Narad Muni rejected his question or did not like it, But Vyasdev immediately admitted, you know, his mistake and his spiritual master's concern about him. And with proper mood, means proper surrendering way, he made an inquiry. You know, this is the way to get spiritual knowledge in disciplic succession. In Shastra, it is described that when we talk to our spiritual master, we have to have a humble mood, so we have to have a serving mood, we have to surrender to him, and we have to ask questions submissively, not challengingly. You know, so these are the rules given in this scripture. Then this is the way to get spiritual knowledge in disciplic succession. Now, Narad Muni pointed out the difference between the body and soul, you know, to the Vyasdev, that whatever you have written is in relation to body and mind, but you haven't glorified anything regarding the soul and the supreme soul, which is Paramatma, which is Lord Krishna himself and his glories, you know. Then Narad reveals the reason to Vyasdev for his dissatisfaction, which he had not been glorified. He had not glorified Lord Krishna enough. And also Narad Muni reveals the importance of describing pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. So I will show you, I'll share the screen with you. So pause a little and then, okay. Okay, so okay, so here I have showed you yesterday some of the slides which shows the pastimes of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan. For example, in this slide, he goes for grazing the cows, for feeding the cows in the jungle. Then next is a fruit vendor lady, Govardhan, he's lifting the Govardhan hill, which I narrated the story yesterday. Then with his cowherd friends, he is eating, you know, enjoying, you can see that, sharing food with each other. Then here Lord Krishna is going to Dwarka after the battle of Kurukshetra, and Kunti Maharani is requesting him to stay longer. Then here Mathura pastime, that Lord Krishna and Balram in the streets of Mathura are there. There he converted a hunchback woman in a beautiful woman there. And then he placed here the florist, one who sells the flower. Then this is the pastime in the Dwarka. You can see here Brahma came to see him. And then also Sudama, his friend, while he was studying at the Sandipani Muni ashram, like that. So we are up to that point. And then also I have described about Narad explains the difference between a pure devotee and materialistic people, comparing with them with swan and crow. In other words, he is comparing pure devotee with a swan and materialistic people with a crow. So where, and then he says here, you see some slides are devotees in spiritual atmosphere, how happy they are. But in the next slide, you can see these material people in Kali Yuga, they are enjoying here. So that is Narad Muni is comparing these materialistic people with crows and the other pure devotees with the swan, you know, like that. So because any activity that does not please Krishna uh, will eventually bring pain. And where Lord Krishna's glories are not chanted, it is a place where crows gather. That's what Narad Muni explained. Then Narad Muni praises the Vyasdev for his work that he has done. Why? Because it was written very scholarly and thoroughly. So that's why he's praising his disciples' work that he did. But he pointed out that he had cheated the people by making them think that real religion is pleasing their own senses. How he cheated the people? He cheated the people by making them think that real religion is pleasing their own senses. So Narad advised Vyasdev to write about Krishna only, which can act like medicine for the materialistic people. You know, this Krishna Katha, uh, Parikshit Maharaj is also, while hearing Shrimad Bhagwatam from Sukadeva Goswami, he's saying that this is like medicine for the cycle of birth and death. You know, whoever hears Krishna Katha, okay, he get enlightenment. You know, his all material miseries will go away. His sinful reactions will go away, like that. And also Narad emphasized that Vyasdev is qualified to write about Krishna. Why Narad says that Vyasdev is qualified to write about Krishna? Because Vyasdev has no material desire and he is expert in writing. Uh, so Narad reminded him actually that Vyasdev came, you know, in this earthly planet, you know, for the to help the people of Kali Yuga. Actually, he is the incarnation of Krishna, right? We saw that the other week, where we were learning the different incarnations of Lord Krishna. Vyasdev is 17th incarnation of Lord Krishna in that slide that we have seen. Then Narad explains the advantages of taking up devotional service to the Lord and the progress made in bhakti is credited forever. He shows the advantage that even one falls down, there is no problem. You know, he can still make advancement in the spiritual life. You know, the Narad gives, it's in Bhagavad Gita also says that even if one has done whatever spiritual progress he made, it will be ever credited in your account. It will never go away like material activity, you know. So activity in Krishna consciousness or acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation of sense gratification is the highest transcendental quality of work. Even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment. You know, that is what is mentioned. And then it says that one person done in spiritual life bears permanent result, so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%. So nobody have to worry about, that they didn't finish the spiritual activity in this life. Next life, they get better opportunity to finish their spiritual life. Material activities and their results end with this body, with this material body. When we leave this body at the time of death, our material activities or material accomplishment that we have, doctor, lawyer, whatever, you know, scientist, Padma Bhushan, whatever it is, everything will go away. But work in Krishna consciousness means spiritual activity carries a person again to Krishna consciousness, even after the loss of the body. That is the advantage that Narad Muni told Vyasdev about it. So there is no loss even for fall down. Then Narad told Vyasdev an example of his own previous life, which we will discuss today. So I have just briefly described what we have covered yesterday. Now today, Narad Muni going further and telling his previous life story. Why? Because he wants to illustrate that the only cause of a pure bhakti is mercy of a devotee. What does that mean? Means you cannot develop a pure bhakti unless you get a mercy from a devotee of the Lord. Devotee of the Lord is more merciful than even Lord Krishna. Therefore, we also sometimes hear Radharani is the best devotee of Krishna. And Radharani is so merciful. So if we take shelter of Radharani, then she will take us to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So in achieving bhakti to Lord, the mercy of devotee is very, very essential. And that is what Narad Muni is trying to explain to Vyasdev by describing his previous life story. Now, another point is that previous to his birth as a son of a maid servant, that we're going to see it here, he's son of a maid servant. Before that, he was a Gandharva and his name was Upabarhana. Okay, but he was cursed by Brahma to become a Sudra. Now, I will briefly describe how he was cursed by Brahma to become a Sudra, means a son of a poor maid servant. So Narad Muni is describing that to Yudhishthir in one of the episode in 7th canto, where he says that long, long ago, Narad Muni saying this thing, in another Mahakalpa of Brahma, I existed as the Gandharva, known as Upabarhan. I was very respected by the other Gandharvas. Then he says that I had a beautiful face and a pleasing, attractive bodily structure, decorated with flower garland and sandalwood pulp. I was most pleasing to the women of my city. Thus, I was bewildered, always feeling lusty desire, he says. Then he says that once there was a Sankirtan festival party to glorify the Supreme Lord Krishna in an assembly of the demigod, okay, in heavenly planet, the Gandharva. And the Gandharvas and Apsaras were invited by the Prajapatis to take part in it. Okay. And then Narad Muni says that being invited to that festival, I also joined. And surrounded by women, I began musically singing the glories of the demigod rather than singing the glories of the Lord Krishna. Because of this, the Prajapati Brahma, the great demigod in charge of the affairs of universe, forcibly cursed me with these words. What they say? Because you have committed an offense, may you immediately become a Sudra, devoid of beauty. So that is how he has taken birth as a Sudra here. So as far as we know that Krishna Katha, as far as Kirtan is concerned, we know that Sravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. Vishnu means Lord Vishnu, Krishna, not anybody else, not demigod, So one should chant about the glories, glorify Lord Vishnu rather than demigod. So this is where Narad made an offense. So his first offense was that he went to join the Sankirtan party in the company of lusty women. And another offense was that he considered ordinary song like cinema song and other such song to be equal to Sankirtan. For this offense, he was punished and with becoming a Sudra. So now we will hear from Narad how he is describing his life as a son of a poor woman's maid servant here. Okay, so we will hear that story from Narad. He's saying that um, in previous life, I was a son of maid servant. I was a good boy. I was never naughty, and I never spoke more than necessary. At one time, I personally served some brahmanas like Mahabhagavatas, great authority, who were living together during 4 months of rainy season. And because his mother was serving them, he also got an opportunity to serve them. And this Brahmana blessed, he said that this Brahmana blessed me with their mercy. One day, Narad Muni further says that one day with their permission, I even ate their prasad, remnant, and something very special happened to me. He says, all my sin just disappeared and my heart became pure. I kept hearing the Brahmanas describe the activities of Krishna. And oh Vyasdev, the more I heard about Krishna, the more I wanted to hear about Krishna. That's when I realized who I really was. So this is the self-realization. We all should be looking for that position. We should know who we are. Here Narad Muni is telling to Vyasdev, he says that I was not this little boy, but rather a spirit soul. He realized that he is a soul and not a body. No. So I served this Brahmana with my body and mind without listening to my senses. I had a lot of faith in these Brahmanas and I became very attached to them. And as the kind Brahmanas were living, they told me the most confidential, sublime secret. What was that secret? Vyasdev inquired. Guruji, what was that secret? Please tell me. So then Narad says that the secret was that devotional service to Lord Krishna will make us the happiest person, okay, and nothing else. It will end all our troubles and miseries if we are always serving Lord Krishna. There is no misery and our sinful reaction will go away. So then Vyasdeva was surprised, how is that happens? Then Narad explains a little bit more and he says that whatever we do in this material world will bind us. Okay, why? Because we do the activity under the influence of the three modes of material nature, which is passion, ignorance, and goodness. No? So they will bind us more to the material world. But whatever we do for Krishna, okay, will bind us more to our dear Lord Krishna. Eventually, this will break the rope that binds us to this material world. So please, my dear Vyasdev, he is telling to his disciple, write about Almighty Lord's wonderful activities. The activities, I have showed you the sample in those slides. There are so many activities, not only that many slides that I showed you in Vrindavan, in Mathura and Dwarka, which we are going to learn as we go further. And in this way, we can ease the suffering of common people. So help them by showing them that devotional service is the only way to get out of the miseries of the material world. So that is what Narad Muni explains so far. But now rest of the stories of his past life, we will hear in the next chapter next week. But now whatever Narad is telling to Vyasdev so far, what we can learn from his story that he told to Vyasdev. We're going to discuss about that now, okay? Because so far what he told to Narad about his past life and what we can learn from that story, that we will briefly touch on that. So the first thing that we should uh, learn from the story, that the real value of Vaishnava association like Mahabhagavatas, Brahmanas that he met, is that it gives us the opportunity to hear Krishna Katha. What is the advantage? It gives us the opportunity. When we meet those Brahmanas, it gives us the opportunity to hear Krishna Katha. And Krishna Katha uh, brings away happiness and takes away our sinful reactions. So this hearing about Krishna can transform one into a devotee of Krishna. No? So the process of hearing is especially recommended in this age of Kali. The other thing that we learn about that the living entities, especially human beings, are the marginal energy of the Lord. As I told you before also, Lord has primary two agency, true energy, internal and external. But he also has this third energy, which is called tatastha, which is called neutral or marginal energy, in which the human being that we have falls. Okay, so he says that these marginal energy, the tatastha that we are in, that depending on our attitude, either we can follow spiritual energy and go to spiritual world, or follow the material process and remain in the material world. Choice is up to us because we are at the neutral stage. So this is the thing. And by performing devotional service to Krishna, we can go to spiritual world. But if we perform the material activities, then we will ever remain in this material world, and having the cycle of birth and death. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, means birth, death cycle will go on there, So that means we will live from one body, but we will get another body because there are 8.4 million different bodies, and which includes animal body, fish body, aquatics, on all the reptiles and animals, and all kind of things, bodies are there, right? So you never know, depending on our karma, depending on our activity that we perform, we get particular body. So the best thing is that we have to learn from the story that just like Narad perfected his human life, even though he was born in a Sudra family, a son of a maid servant. So similarly, when we got an opportunity to do some bhakti, we should take it and take advantage of it. So from the example of Narad Muni, it is clear that the service of the Lord begins with the service of Lord's bona fide servant. Here we can see that Narad Muni got an opportunity to serve the Brahmanas, who are the devotees of the Krishna. So therefore, one should choose a bona fide servant of the Lord as spiritual teacher or spiritual master, and constantly engage in his service. By the service of bona fide spiritual master, the Lord or Paramatma in our heart, reveals himself in proportion to the service rendered. When we serve, then the Lord in the form of a Paramatma in our heart, see, with our soul in the heart, the super soul, which is Paramatma, which is another feature of Lord Krishna himself, stays in our heart, to direct us and watch us our activities, to give reward for that activity for our next life. He's there always. He's witnessing all our activities, not only witnessing, but he also guiding us. Sometimes we say, my instinct bite. What is that instinct? That instinct bite is that signal is coming from the super soul, from your heart. But sometimes we neglect, and we do whatever we want to do. So as a result, we have to suffer the reaction of that activity. So in the Vedas, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kali Pavan Avatar, who is a combined form of Lord Radha and Krishna and Radha, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that there are only 3 subject matter in the Vedas. In a Vedic scripture, number 1 is to establish the relationship with Lord. Second is to perform relative duties in the devotional service. And the third one is achieve the ultimate goal of life, to go to back to Godhead. So in technical term in Sanskrit, they are defined as Sabandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. Means relationship, practical way, and then the goal of, the result of performing that activity, after knowing the relationship. So basically, what they're trying to say here, that we as a living entity, we as a human being, we as a soul, we need to know, because all souls belong to Lord Krishna. He says, Mamayavamsa Jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. We are fragmental part and parcel of Lord Krishna. So we have to know our relationship with Krishna, and then we have to do some practical way, which is devotional service to Lord Krishna, and then we have to gain our ultimate goal, which is going back to Godhead, to the spiritual planet. Then the personality of Godhead is the purest entity. We can learn from this also. Therefore, unless one is equally pure from the infection of material qualities, one cannot become a pure devotee of the Lord, right? Because one has to rise to the mode of goodness, from ignorance and passion, and from goodness to pure goodness, and that way we can make progress towards spiritual path. To make progress on spiritual path, these three things are very important in our life. One is Bhakta Pada Raja. Raja means the lotus feet dust of the lotus feet of the devotee, pure devotee. The Jala, Pada Jala, means the Charanamrut, or washing the lotus feet of the pure devotee, that water and the dust, and also the Bhakta Bhukta of says, means the remnants of the prasad that is eating. If we take advantage of this thing, which Narad Muni take by the association of these brahmanas, you can advance in your spiritual life. We will see in the next chapter, next week, that how he has advanced to the level of that what he is in now. Now, why Lord descends to this material world? The Lord descends on this material world out of his causeless mercy and displays his various transcendental pastime as a human being, so that human being attracted toward him become able to go back to Godhead. But the main practices or main processes, by hearing the narration or the story of the pastime of the Lord, and one context directly with Lord Krishna, then all accumulated sins are eradicated. Then gradually one becomes liberated from material association, and therefore the process of hearing in the association of devotee is especially recommended in this age of Kali, and that is the advantage Narad Muni got here. Now, another thing that we learn from the story is about ignorance in material existence is compared to darkness. Ignorance compared to darkness. And Krishna is compared to sun. So whenever there is a sun, do you see any darkness? There is no darkness, because sun has never seen darkness. So wherever there is a sun, there is no darkness. So hearing of the Lord pastime is itself transcendental association with the Lord. Why? Because there is no difference between Lord and his pastime. So these are the things that we need to understand from the story, that Lord Krishna himself, and hearing about Lord Krishna means his activities. There is no difference between it. So it will act like a light, and we will be out of ignorance means darkness. Now, another analogy is given, that as the river flows on till reaches the sea, similarly, pure devotional service flows by the association of pure devotees till it reaches the ultimate goal of love of Godhead. as we know, all the rivers flows till it go to seas. That is the ultimate goal. So similarly, if we perform a pure devotional service to Lord Krishna, ultimately we go to his lotus feet, and that is our param dham. That is our goal, to go there. Then by the association of pure devotees only, one can get rid of sins accumulated by material association and material activities. Then it is also Lord desires that all conditioned soul like us in the material world come back to him, giving up all engagement in the material world. This is most confidential part of knowledge, which can be understood only by the pure devotee, and only such devotees enter the kingdom of God to see him personally and serve him personally. So here, this is also given by Lord Krishna to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. In the last chapter, he says that, that you give up all your activities and surrender unto me. So by doing that, you will, he says that in summary of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is telling to Arjuna that you should give up all the processes that have been explained to you by now, and you should simply surrender to me. And surrendering means you will get rid of your sinful reactions, and then Lord personally gives that promise, that he says that I will remove, he says personally, that abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me, and I shall deliver you from all full reactions. And even he guarantees that, do not fear about it. That means he gives the guarantee for that also. So Narad is the concrete example in this story we can see, who attained this stage of eternal knowledge and eternal bliss. This process is open to all, provided one agrees to follow in the footstep of Narad Muni, like he is Mahajan. What is Mahajan means? Great personality. Means one who knows the Bhagavad Dharma. Bhagavad Dharma means Sanatan Dharma, eternal religion, which is described in Bhagavatam. We learned in chapter 2 of this, when we learned chapter 2 of Shrimad Bhagwatam, where is Savai Pungsam Paro Dharma Yato Bhakti Adoksaje. So we have learned that the Bhagavad Dharma, who knows the Bhagavad Dharma completely, they are Maha Bhagavat, they are Mahajan. And in Bhagavatam, there are 12 Mahajan described. How many Mahajan? Great authority. There are 12 of those. And they are Brahma, Narad, Lord Shiva, 4 Kumaras. We see them in the incarnation. They were the first incarnation of Lord Krishna. Kapil Bhagwan, who is the son of Kardam Muni and Devhuti. Swayambhu Manu, who is the son of Lord Brahma. Prahlad, who is the son of Kayadu and Hiranyakashipu. Janak Maharaj, who is the father of Lord Ramchandra. Bhishmadev, who is the grandfather of Pandavas. Bali Maharaj, and Sukhdev Goswami, which we have heard about him a lot. And then Yamraj, he is the Lord in charge of death. Those are the 12 Mahajanas described in Shrimad Bhagwatam. Now we'll talk about briefly what is the benefit acting for Krishna. So learned man concluded that the best remedial measure for removing all misery is to dedicate one's activity to the Lord's service. In other words, sometimes if we cannot do directly or remember Lord Krishna always 24/7, then whatever activity we do, so we have to give the fruits of that activity to Lord Krishna. At least we should do that, So that is what he said. Narad Muni personally experienced that the most feasible and practical way to open the path of liberation or get relief from all miseries of life is to hear submissively the pastime of Lord from the right and bona fide source. So as we can see, the whole world is struggling very hard to exit out miseries, but they do not know that without the sanction of the Lord, no plan or no remedial measure can actually bring about the desired peace. So this is very important point to be noted. The remedial measure to cure a patient by medical treatment is useless if it is not sanctioned or permitted by the Lord, right? Now, no matter how many, doctors are there, what medicine is given, but if it is not sanctioned, the person not will come to life, like that. So we should know for certain that the Lord is the ultimate sanctioning officer. He is the one who permits, all our activities, he is the one who decides. Now he decides based on our karma. And we must therefore dedicate our attempts to the mercy of Lord for ultimate success or to get rid of the obstacle on the path of success. So sometimes people are enjoying too much in this material world, but we should make use of our money in the service of Lord Narayan. Lakshmi Narayan. The another way, money they call in our language is Lakshmi. Just like Narayan, Lakshmi always stays with Narayan. So if we want Lakshmi, means we want money without Narayan and without God, that will not work. Money will not pay. Money is also called Lakshmi. And only money will not stay if you don't keep Narayan with us. We have to remember that. That is the way to realize the Lord in every sphere of life. So when we got money, we make use of money in the service of Narayan. Narayan is same as Lord Krishna, Vishnu, Ram, they all same. Just another analogy is given here that an expert physician treats his patient with a proper diet. How? The example is given. Sometimes what happened, milk preparation sometimes causes disorder in our stomach, right? Sometimes trouble in the stomach because of the milk preparation. But the very same milk converted into the curd and mixed with some other remedial ingredient, it will cure that disturbance or whatever problem in the stomach is there, right? Similarly, the threefold miseries of material existence cannot be mitigated simply by material activity, but such activities have to be purified, means spiritualized. How do you do that? Again, the analogy is given that if the iron rod put into a fire until it becomes red hot, then same iron rod will act as a fire. So that is how the analogy is given and explained here, that similarly, the material conception of thing is at once changed as soon as it is put into the service of the Lord. See, as soon as we put the iron rod into the fire, it becomes red hot and it will achieve that potency. Similarly, rather than doing material activity, if our mind and senses, work on the devotional service, then our senses will become purified, spiritualized, and that is our success. That is the secret of spiritual success. So the wise thing is to employ so-called material senses, for the service of the Lord Krishna. One example given in Shrimad Bhagwatam is about Ambrish Maharaj. I will not go in too much detail because we will learn about him also later on. But he has used all his senses, even though he was a king, very wealthy, nice kingdom, and very successful king. But he has engaged all his service in the service of the Lord. Then the propensity for enjoyment may be turned. So this is the lesson that we can learn. Then propensity for enjoyment, we can turn to desire for serving the mission of the Lord, which is called, that is the way by which one can attain spiritual perfection, while engaging in work for which we have a natural tendency. So this is the whole thing. So that is why Narad Muni also, he see the natural tendency of Vyasadeva writing scripture. So he's engaging them by giving him some direction, So in order to get successful, we have to use our natural tendency in the service of the work. We have to use that in the service to Lord Krishna. So the conclusion is that a devotee engaged in the unalloyed service of the Lord, specifically in hearing and chanting of his transcendental glories, becomes simultaneously enlightened by the divine grace. Now, while performing duties according to order of the Lord, Krishna, one naturally constantly remember him and his name qualities, uh, which becomes natural, when we serve him. Then last 4 verses, Narad gives like his personal mantra and some advice to Vyas Muni, which I quickly cover it. Narad Muni has explained the nature of unalloyed devotional service by his personal experience in the development of intimacy between the Lord and the living entity by a gradual process of progressive devotional activity. So the most confidential part of Narad instruction is that, what is that? One should always chant and remember the glories of Lord Sri Krishna. What is the most confidential part of Narad instruction? Means one should chant always, chant and remember the glories of the Lord Sri Krishna, along with different plenary portions expanded in Vasudev, Sankarsan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. And Narad Dev has given a mantra to Vyasadeva. What is that mantra? Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Aniruddhaya Namaha Sankarsanaya Cha. So this is the 33 syllable mantra that Narad has given to Vyasadeva. Now, our present senses are all mark of material element, and therefore they are imperfect in realizing the transcendental form of Lord Vishnu. So he is therefore worshipped by sound representation. So that's why, why the mantra is given, because the senses we possess are material. So by the sound representation, by mantra, Om, like that mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya, like that. So this mantra have a sound effect, which is spiritual, See, then Lord reveals his identity gradually in one who has unflinching faith both in the spiritual master and the Lord. And the example is like Srila Prabhupada also here. When Lord will reveal when you have a faith in both Guru and Krishna. Okay, then Lord will reveal himself to you. Just like the Srila Prabhupada is the example, because he followed his Guru and he have a faith in Krishna. That is why he can do whatever he did in his 12 years of life, last. So now at the end, the prime solution of all problem of material work is to broadcast very widely the transcendental glories of Supreme Lord. And the conclusion Narad Muni gives is, Narad Muni advised Vyasadeva to describe the Lord's glories, which is the Shrimad Bhagwatam. It will become to satisfy the hankering of learned man. See, 2 reasons he gives here. Naradji advised Vyasadeva to describe the Lord's glories to satisfy the hankering of learned men and to mitigate the miseries of common people, because there is no other way to get out of miseries. The Shrimad Bhagavatam is not meant for only particular class of men. It is for the sincere soul who actually wants his own welfare and peace of mind. Thus, Vyasadeva got inspired to write Shrimad Bhagavatam, So this is what it is said here. You can see another slides for what is this thing? Why are you doing this thing here? Okay, so with this, I will end the class here. And now, what did Narad Muni as a boy do after the Brahmanas left? Will continue next chapter 6 next week. Thank you. Hare Krishna.